Welcome to the Real Estate Women's Podcast. Thanks for pulling up a chair to our roundtable discussion. Here, we'll teach you how you can create a stream of passive income through multifamily investing, and we'll help you to shift your mindset so you can start living the life you really want to be living by design today.
Hello, we're the Real Estate Women. I'm Colleen.
I'm Candy.
I'm Crystal.
I'm Tamara. Welcome to the Mindset episode of the Passive Investing Podcast. What is mindset? Mindset is a general attitude that we have in life. It's a way of thinking and behaving that is shaped by our beliefs. We've come to realize that mindset is the number one place to start when it comes to making a change. It plays a significant role in determining life's outcomes by understanding, adapting, and shifting your mindset. You can prepare yourself for growth in a way for you desire.
In today's episode, what we're going to talk about is start by starting. And when that refers to mindset, we think the best way is to start is really to understand that there are two different types of mindset, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And that probably brings up a whole bunch of questions, right? Like, what is a growth mindset? What is a fixed mindset? And, what does that even mean? So we're going to go into a bit more detail and kind of talk about that a little bit more. Candy, why don't you start? So at what point did you kind of realize you actually had control over your mindset? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that the mindset you have today doesn't have to be the mindset you have next week. There's a lot of things you can do to change that. So at what point did you realize that?
I think over like 20 some odd years ago, someone mentioned to me that you could, you change your thoughts, you change your life. And to me, I thought, well, that's odd because you're born. I felt you were born with your thoughts and that's what you are. That's your personality. And that was set, it was part of your DNA. And then when I started to discover and learn more about that, the level of awareness came that, yes, if I change my thoughts of what I say to myself and the things that go through my head, how I play those stories over and over again, I do have control over that. And it was that pivoting point when I realized and practiced just a couple of times how to do that. That's when I realized this is where the growth mindset really began. And that was a long time ago. And it was a practice, and it's still a practice today. I think it's an ongoing practice.
Yeah, that makes sense because a lot of people are kind of caught in that, like, I'm born a negative person, so this is just my outlook on life. And some people don't realize, well, change your attitude. Life is only 10%, 20% of the attitude of what happens to you, and it's 80% the attitude that you take to it. So changing that can be a whole life changer.
Yeah. Colleen, what do you
like?
Did you have any indication as to when you had a change in your mindset?
I mean, I guess it would depend on, what you're referencing, to be honest with you. And I think the easiest thing to start out saying is, like, for the longest time, I do believe I had a fixed outlook on things, a fixed mindset. Like, I thought a lot of things were not possible if you didn't have the education, not possible if you didn't have the money, not possible if you didn't have the opportunities. And then on the flip side of it, you hear those stories where, somebody came from a poor family, no education, and they rise to being the top at what they're doing. So it's about what you believe in yourself, and that really can change your outlook on your future.
Yeah, I totally.
I think that's a really good example of sorry, go ahead, Candy.
No, I was just saying how I could identify with that, and it just brings back different types of coaching that I've had in the past, whether it's doing a high five to yourself in the mirror, it just affirmations, all of that. What were you going to say, Crystal?
I was just saying, I think Colleen had a really good example of a fixed mindset. Like, I don't have the education. That's what some people think, or I don't have the money to start. Well, that's a fixed mindset when you think that I don't have this right now. That's a mindset that's fixed. What you have right now doesn't matter because you can do different things. You can change your life by the steps that you take. So telling yourself that I don't have the education is not a growth mindset. That's a good example of a fixed mindset.
Tamara, what are your experiences with that?
So my most recent experiences have definitely been more in the growth um, category. However, for sure, I started out thinking the same thing, that things were fixed. That, like, you go to high school, you go to college, you go that route, and then just 9 to 5 somewhere, or it just that's just what, I don't know, just that there's not other opportunities or other things or that you can change. I mean, like you've all said, like, I thought things were fixed and permanent, I guess is more the word that comes to mind. Um, and then the growth part is just, I try to learn something every day. So, that's a goal, and or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but at a minimum, one is a good place, to be. And if you want changes, then I think it's really important about starting with your mind. Because if you don't have that like lined up, then you could have all the education or all the learning in place, or read all the books, and if it doesn't resonate, like, where then you have that belief in place that you can change, you can pivot, you can grow. I don't think it's going to work out the same. Your results are going to be so much better if you work on your mind.
I know when I first started thinking about changing mindset, I started really the best way for me to learn was to listen to the people I was hanging around and listening to what they were saying and what we were
Mhm.
talking about. And if it was constant negativity, the more and more I became aware of my mindset and what I was thinking, the less tolerance I had for that. And so the first thing that I started to do was wanting to, change well, not change the expression, but the expression is that your glass is half full or it's half empty. And so when I
Mhm.
would start pivoting my perspective on things, and just those slight changes started to change. I started to notice subtle thoughts that would be happening, that would be looking at something on as a gift as opposed to it being something terrible that happened. And with that,
Mhm.
I started to then connect, wow, I have pride in a lot of my, as what people call, horror stories, or, trials and errors that they've had in their lives. I had pride
Mhm.
in that. I was hanging on to that, therefore hanging on to my negative thoughts, therefore keeping me in the same place in the gerbil wheel of life.
That's kind of a good example of like the commitment and ownership to your own attitude and mindset, because like you made a commitment, like, okay, maybe I am a little bit more half empty, but you said, no, I want to be a half full type of person. And you made the commitment, you took ownership of the thoughts of your self talk. Because a lot of people, I feel like, don't realize that that's step one to changing your mindset. Take commitment and ownership. Take the ownership of your thoughts and make the commitment to change them. When you hear yourself veering off the road to the negativity, like, no, this is not the worst day ever because I stubbed my toe. I stubbed my toe right now, but things are going to get better. This is going to be the worst thing. Instead of getting out of bed, stubbing your toe, I'm like, oh, this is my day. This is how it's going to go. Because if that happens, it spirals. But if you make the decision to that, well, I stubbed my toe, I started my day poorly, but that's going to be the worst part. Everything's going to get better from there. That is a good way that you can kind of take ownership and change things little by little. And if you start to realize your self-talk, it can make a big difference. Definitely.
Yes, stopping
And then I do think too that it rolls into your words. So then if your thoughts change, then your words change, because your words definitely, you don't really make the connection. You just think that, this is just how I communicate. And even that definitely can grow and change. And if you start out with a more positive mindset, then I think how you even react to something, or how you choose to react to it, is going to be in a better light.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
And I
That's
think
true.
once
And
you get, oh, go ahead, Candy.
good. No, I was just going to say that simple things, like for example, saying, "Oh, I can't afford something." Instead of saying I can't afford, you can simply say I choose not to. This is not my financial priority right now. There's a big difference in just saying that out loud, how that feels internally in your body.
Mhm.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Colleen.
And I think it's so easy to get stuck in a fixed mindset too. And it's really hard to make that change and to flip your thoughts over into the growth category. And I think that's where it kind of ties back into our topic today of start by starting. Even if it's just something little of, I'm going to start thinking of this aspect more positively. I'm going to change this one thing this week. And then you slowly add to it. You got to start by starting somewhere. So you have to tell yourself, no, I can do this, whatever it may be, and start working little by little to shift your mindset over into that growth mindset.
That's true, because it is a slow process. It's definitely like you slowly start realizing that oh, okay, well, sometimes it's aftermath, like after, like, for example, my mind always goes to like dealing with a little one with a temper tantrum. Like, okay, your first instincts can sometimes not be the most positive. Well, hey, stop doing that. Don't do that. As opposed to like, hey, that's not a really good thing to do. Why don't you do this instead? But sometimes it's not until the aftermath that you realize, oh, that's not what I should do. So that's good. Start with one thing. It's really
That's exactly it. That's like,
So the awareness. So really, Krista, what you're bubbling up is the awareness of sometimes you don't take back to the accountability. You have to own it. You have to own that. Okay, I could have handled that differently, and then there's next time. There's next time to say I learned from that, and then that saying, failing is not failing as long as you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
true.
yeah, it's that level
Very
of
true.
awareness when you see that and you're experiencing it and you're like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, this reminds me of this situation. What can I do different? Usually that's not in the moment when that happens. It's always in hindsight. But the more that we have that level of awareness that, oh, this reminds me of this, I don't want to experience that again. A lot of times, the simplest thing is if I don't know what to do nothing, and that's not, I don't want to say that in regards to not in emergency situations, of course, but a lot of times, we don't have to, we can have an action towards something, but we don't have to react. When we respond based upon our emotions, then it's usually not a good choice. And so we have to really be aware of
Mhm.
like, how am I feeling? How am I feeling in this moment in order to be able to change the way that we respond and how the words come out. And I love the fact, Tamara, what you were saying earlier about choosing your words, because there's so much power in that. For sure. I totally identify with that. And that was something that helped me shift into the growth mindset now, where just shifting words, not using foul language, for instance, cursing. People don't identify that with being negativity, and it really does. It's very powerful and has an impact on yourself and your surroundings.
I agree. When you like sometimes when you get to the level that you say a curse word or a swear word, you are already so upset and you've kind of lost control of your emotions. At least I know for me, if that happens, it's definitely not a point where you're in control. So that's a really good piece of advice. Like, think about that. Be aware of that. Be aware of at what level of control you essentially have at the moment, because that can be tough. That can be really tough sometimes in a lot of situations to control your emotions.
Yeah. Well, and as you sit here
Circling
and
back to sorry, Colleen, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say when you're sitting here talking about like the things you say and how it affects you or how it makes you think of you, it kind of reminds me of my youngest son who's struggling a little bit in math. And he will sit there and do something and get it wrong. And then his immediate thing is, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. And I hate that he says that because he's not stupid. You just don't understand that math problem, right? And as you continue to do it and you get better and you build those skills, you're not stupid. You learn them and you're growing. But at the same time, if you hear yourself saying you're stupid all the time, what are you going to believe? You're going to believe you're stupid. So it just makes me think of those little things. So it is, you need to tell yourself, I can do this. I'm going to find a way to do this, even if it seems impossible.
Yeah. And
So tag teaming back onto that, like that's, I was going to circle back to like beliefs, and then that's you brought, so his belief is that for the moment.
Yes.
And so then, that's where we just, I think us collectively would really like to bring awareness of how important it is that even at, your life experiences, no matter how many years or how many moments that are embedded in there, even can be changed. Like you can pivot and make a different choice and, and make a change in your life then.
Most definitely.
it's true. And I feel like people do need to definitely realize that, like, just because you made a bad choice and you did something that maybe was bad, that doesn't mean you're a bad person or you are defined by that bad choice. You made a bad decision, but next time can be better. So you are not defined by the one choice you make today. What defines you is whether or not you have the awareness and the desire to make tomorrow different. So that's definitely a big thing to realize, and that's hard. And that also reminds me of like how important affirmations are, to like say that type of stuff, for kids especially, and even adults even. But if you can start them young, why not? If you every day you're reminding your kids, well, you're great, you're beautiful, you're smart, you can do things. Like if you say this to yourself every day, like you're going to believe it. Just like on the negative form, if you tell yourself every day, I don't know this, I can't do this, I don't have the money for this, it becomes reality. But if you tell yourself, I am intelligent, I can learn, even brush your teeth, like say it in your head, or once you get braver, say it out loud, yell it to the mirror while you're brushing your teeth. I feel like it's so funny, but it can be so powerful. And I know my daughter loves like brushing your teeth and like saying positive things and like saying her affirmations. And it's like, it can be a fun thing. And it makes you feel good. Like you start your day off, like, it's like you're being playful and like positive about it. It helps when you start by stubbing your toe. Then once you jump over to those concepts, it can be a good flip.
That's so true, Crystal. When you think it's so much easier to teach other people, particularly kids, to do this kind of stuff, but then particularly as an adult, and try to stand in front of the mirror and say things like, you're great, I love you, you're a great person. It's very awkward, whether there's somebody else in the room or not. It's really amazing. One of the things that one of the first turning points that I learned in changing my thoughts is that when I caught myself, which is key, it's the listening for those negative thoughts. But when I caught myself, instead of judging myself, I would just kind of say, thanks for sharing. And then not give it any more weight and just leave it at that. And then eventually I would laugh when I was like, here we go again. And then it would stop. And that took practice to do it that way.
Believe it. It's funny that you mentioned that, Candace, about like it's easier to teach somebody else, because like I would say my affirmations like when I read like my identity statement or stuff, like before I started working and stuff, but I never said them out loud. But because I had my daughter say them out loud, I started saying them out loud with her. So you're so right that, and I didn't even really realize it until you just mentioned it, that like teaching somebody else makes it easier to do these things. So maybe it might be like beneficial to have like an accountability partner with mindset. Maybe find a friend who also, wants to flip the switch and, play off each other that way. That might be a good help for some listeners. Unless you have kids, you can just use your kids, have them teach them.
Oh boy. Could you imagine getting 2 teenage boys to do that?
Hey, that could be great. It could make a funny YouTube video as well.
You could pay them. I bet you could do it if you paid them.
Yeah, that's true, probably.
And then the next thing you know, they'd start believing it. That's what they say, right? Beliefs are created by our personal experiences, right? The way you experience things and the way you experience life is what builds your belief, and what your beliefs are controls your attitude, and the attitude controls the mindset. So if you start somewhere, but it would be fun.
I like the
Oh,
idea of the
man.
accountability partner. I think that's really cool. And
Mhm.
even if you didn't have somebody that you felt comfortable to ask this to, you could text these things to yourself. And then, typing it in, and then all of a sudden you're going to get a text back and you get to read what you wrote. So, I mean, you have to do these like little
Mhm.
mind games in order to get started. But then eventually, once it starts taking hold, it, it's very subtle, and then all of a sudden you'll realize that you're not saying these things to yourself anymore, or you're noticing the people that you're surrounding yourself with, their attitudes are changing. People might say that you seem lighter. There's all sorts of there's all
Mhm.
sorts of like little indications that something is shifting and changing, because people will notice. You may not notice it at first until people start saying, "Hey, what's
Mhm.
going on? You seem so much happier. You seem lighter." Do you guys ever experience that?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. Yes, I think you attract. Then that's the law of attraction. I think that then you attract different people into your life and into your circle. About the energy, because everything's energy. I believe that. Um, so I think you attract different when you are different. Internally, even if it's not, even if you're not verbalizing it on a on a regular basis. So I was just going to comment though that I it was like a coaching session where they recommended the kind of along the lines of the accountability is that you make a recording to yourself, and then like say if you're having a bad moment, that then you play yourself back to yourself about what your goals are or what you want to achieve or what, and then that'll shift, it'll change it and be like, oh yeah, that's right, okay, I need to like stop it or cancel that out, and stop feeding into it. So that was a good piece of advice to share that came along and came across my path.
That's really clever because I've always had like my goal statement and my affirmations, and you say it, but sometimes like you don't do it and whatnot. When you're having a bad day, if I just had that like on my phone where I know I could just press it and I'm like, ugh, and then just hear that, like I'd probably laugh at myself because seeing yourself on camera is kind of weird. But yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
really
right.
smart. Super clever.
I love how all of what we've just talked about, it starts with like planting of a seed, and then our minds grow, and as our minds grow, just like Tamara was saying, it's a law of attraction. Other people enter your world, and the next thing you know, here you are listening to our podcast. You're learning about multifamily investing, and if you thought about it like X amount of time ago, would this even have entered into your life? Would you have even known about this? And that you're curious and you have the mindset and the openness now that you're already in a growth state to be searching and looking for more for your life. I think that's what's the important thing is about life is about joy, and it's about living. And living is not doing the same thing over and over again. That's called insanity. But when we experience new opportunities, new things in life, that's growth, and that's a full life. And it doesn't matter to what magnitude that is. You don't have to be a multi-millionaire to experience a full life. It's a gamut across just personal experiences and how you value them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And it's never too late, ever. Everyone has to remember that. Like, never be like, oh, if I would have started this before, or I would have house hacked when I was in my 20s to start. Like, that would have been a way to do it. Like, it's never, ever too late. It's never too late to change your life mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. Like, it always, everything, life's 20% what happens to you and 80% the attitude you take to it. That's like my favorite quote ever. And it's making the right decision, changing your attitude, and
Mm-hmm.
just start to change a little bit, slowly but surely. Oh man, this was good. This was great, ladies. Like we got in pretty good on some different stuff about growth and mindset, and
Uh-huh.
I loved hearing all of it.
Colleen, do you want to take us out?
Do I have? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think definitely if you are, in a state of having a fixed mind right now, you need to work on making those little shifts over, grow yourself, expand your mind. You can do whatever you set your mind to it. You just have to make that choice and you've got to jump into it. So I think it really all starts with your mindset.
Definitely.
Well, this has been really great listening to everyone share about mindset and how that change, it's very subtle. And that's something to remember, that it's a very subtle change. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's really, I'm in awe of who I used to be. Like, I don't identify, obviously I'm the same body, the same person, but who I am today compared to the person I was when I first learned about the change in mindset. I was just like in my angry 20s, cocky, angry, and just like a victim of life. And so far from that, so far from that. And it just is from just these subtle changes and awarenesses and just choices. It's all about choice. And those choices lead to success. And it's just in baby steps. So this has been great. I want to thank everyone for sharing. And I want to encourage all of our listeners to think about your mindset, whether you're already on that path or if you are just entering it, or for the first time, like I was years ago, learning about it, like, what? It's really important to really take care of yourself. And the first part is, how do you talk to yourself? Think about that.
Well, we'd like to go ahead and thank our listeners for joining us at the round table today. We've run out of time. This was a lot of fun, ladies. But if you want to learn more about us, you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, like and subscribe to us on YouTube, or visit our website at therealestatewomen.com.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not licensed professionals and do not give investment advice, tax advice, or other professional advice. Please consult a licensed professional before making any financial decisions.